Hi everyone, hope you guys are all having a great day today. In today's video, I'm going to cover the whole entire market in terms of the S&P 500, Dow Jones, Nasdaq, in terms of ETFs, specifically the SPY, SPY for S&P 500, QQQ for Nasdaq, and I'm going to cover economic calendar, US Treasury, 10-year, crude oil, so on and so forth. So hopefully you guys like the video. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you do, consider dropping a like. It does help the channel, so thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. And I do post these daily, so if you want to be notified when I do upload the next video, consider following so be notified when I do. In terms of economic calendar, we have at 8:30 a.m. all these following will be posted: U.S. employment report, U.S. unemployment report, U.S. hourly wages year over year, and then at 10 a.m. we have ISM services. At 7:45 p.m. we have Chicago Fed President Austin Goolsbee speak, and then at 8:15 p.m. New York Fed President John Williams speech. And also in terms of next week, it seems like it's a pretty light week. Nothing will be affecting the market. The reason why I state that is because, in my opinion, I think the market's going to start going to the upside unless some headwinds come by and so on and so forth. Specifically because, as well, in my opinion, the Apple earnings, it was good. And then they're doing a share buyback and all that stuff, which I think, in my opinion, will fuel the markets tomorrow. Fridays tend to be on the low side a little bit, but at the same time, I think Apple pretty much will push the tech sector, and then the tech sector should be going up, in my opinion. Again, like always, I'm not a professional, so please do your own due diligence and research before buying and selling, but that is my opinion. In terms of the 10-year US 10-year Treasury, before I go to the analysis part of the market, it's at 4.59%, and then at crude oil, it's at $79.07 per barrel. And now if we get to the analysis portion, I'm going to go through QQQ first, which is the ETF for Nasdaq. We're at $426.90 closed. And then at the 5-year chart, for the new viewers, just to show you guys, since 2010, we had this upward trend resistance line, upward trend support level, and we've only passed the upward trend since 2020 to 222, and then we got back underneath it and pretty much got brought back down, and then hypothetically bouncing off this level and going to the upside. The question is, are we actually going to the upside? I think for the time being, for the short term, yes, but ultimately heading back down, probably to lower levels in the long term. So in the 5-year chart, moving average, MACD line, all stuff, MACD is showing to the downside. The 1-year chart is showing crossing over back up to the bullish movement. And then if we go to the short term, 6-month, 3-month, 1 month, all pretty much pointing to the upside for the most part. Now, again, I think, in my opinion, we are heading up in the short term to the upside. And we have essentially this upward trend support / resistance level we've seen back here acted as resistance, support right here, support, and then right about here, resistance. The reason why I state that is, again, I believe in yesterday's video, I stated that we're going to be pretty much consolidating somewhere between 418 to 430. Best case scenario, if we break the 430 somehow, 430 and some change. I don't think we hit past 430 anyway today, but 430 and some change, and hitting ultimately the 432 to 434 as the max. And we've seen it right about here. We got knocked down a couple times in the past. It acted as support as well. So resistance and support. So this time around, given how Apple has performed, I think it will bring up the tech market, or the tech sector. The one thing I could think that would probably bring it down is if the U.S. employment report and U.S. unemployment report comes in worse kind of thing. But other than that, I don't think that's going to be big enough catalyst to probably pretty much bring the markets down. If it worst case scenario, I think it would just come back into the consolidation phase that I think pretty much would be around the 418 to 430, give or take. But ultimately, I think we're going to have just head up higher. So the first level we were looking for to break, essentially the 430 still, again, 430 and some change. And then after that is around the 433 to 434 price point. Again, you can see pretty much horizontally here, around that price point, about a couple times bounce off support, resistance right about here if you just had horizontal line, and a couple times here. There's breakouts, so I don't really want to count that area. But there's that. The next resistance level that you would have to be breaking pretty much almost coincides with this downward trend resistance line, because we've hit resistance a couple times. Now for the QQQ, so for NASDAQ, there was a false breakout right here. I'll zoom in so you can see it. But for the SPY, it has the same downward trend resistance line, which is pretty coinciding with each other kind of thing. Pretty cool. But at the same time, there was no false breakout for the SPY, so slash S&P 500, right? But going with those, the upward trend resistance line right about here, which acts like a support in the past, but it's going to act as resistance just like right about here again, even though it has false breakouts. So be mindful with these price points I give you. There is false breakouts. It's not necessarily a clean price point. So I just pretty much give a ballpark price point. So the first, if it were to spike up and meet it right away, which it won't, probably delay it anyway, you're looking at 439, 440, give or take, $430, $440. And then also pretty much if you wanted to go off resistance levels, yeah, 441 anyway, which coincides with this downward trend resistance line. So pretty much around the 440 to $442 price point, it's going to be quite difficult to pass. What I'm probably expecting, in my opinion, is since we've already had a false breakout during this downward trend resistance line, there's a chance it's going to have a false breakout again. So I would anticipate close to 440. It's showing $442.52 as another resistance level. So it's pretty much spike up to that. And I think that would be the false breakout and head down. But the thing is, though, given that, I don't think it would head down, actually, even regardless of the false breakout. The reason why is because next week, it's pretty much nothing is going to be coming in the horizon that's going to be a drastic news in terms of economic calendar stuff. So given that, there's nothing to really drag down the markets that I could foresee, unless the tensions in like the Middle East happens, increases, so on and so forth. But for the time being, I don't see a real slowdown. So because of that, there'll be like stagnations a little bit, but ultimately head to the upside. Again, short term shows to the upside. The 1 year chart shows curving to the upside for all S&P 500, Nasdaq, Dow Jones, which I'm going to show soon. But I think ultimately we'll be bouncing up. Not ultimately, sorry, but we'll be going up. At one point, we will be coming down because, in my opinion, technically, the economy is doing well hypothetically based off numbers, right? But I don't think it's doing well enough to actually break through. But it is an election year, and I think things tend to happen during election years. So maybe go back up and test this upward trend resistance line that, again, dates back since 2010. For Nasdaq, we broke through, had a breakout. But for SPY, S&P 500, I'll show soon, there was no breakout. So I don't know, we'll see. But I don't think for the SPY we're quite high enough to get to the higher level, to get brought down. So maybe we'll break through again. Who knows? We'll see. But now for the S&P 500 / SPY, right about here. So just to show you, yeah, we're midway, by the way, for the S&P 500. So specifically, there's an ETF for SPY, or a SPY ETF for S&P 500, and we have room to grow to the upside. So again, for the QQQ / Nasdaq, maybe it breaks through again. Who knows? Just like 2020 to 2022. Again, in my opinion, election years, things tend to like be favored to the upside, but that's just my opinion. So upward trend resistance line kept us down basically the whole entire time. Maybe small false breakout a couple times if you really zoom in, but nothing crazy. Upward trend support level, and then upward trend support level as well for the major crashes. But right now we're right about here. For the 5 year chart, shows downside MACD movement. The 1 year chart, though, it shows just like all of them, trying to curve up to the upside again. And then with the 6 month, 3 month, and 1 month, they're all pretty much curving up to the upside as well, if not already in the bullish movement. So it shows upsides coming. And for this one, it's for the S&P 500 / SPY ETF, it's at $505.03, and it's more it's going to move slower in my opinion, and then more likely to get consolidate in terms of these price points hypothetically. So first, if we were to head to the upside, I don't know if I covered the downside actually for the QQQ, but I'll go back to it just in case. Actually, I'll go back to it right now. Sorry for jumping all over the place. I don't have too much time to edit the video too much, so it's going to be a little bit choppy. But I'll go back to the SPY right after. But in terms of QQQ, if we were to drop down, because I covered the upside, if we were to drop down, there is support at the $420 price point. There is at the $425, but we're pretty much already at there at that point anyway. So consolidate 424, 425. Then the next level is the 420, 421, and then after that, there's the 47. I know the problem is a lot of support levels. It just kind of sounds like I'm just listing numbers, but there's the 417, 418, but then 416 ultimately. 416, and after that I think we would just bounce off the 413 to 414 price point, which is right about here, acted as resistance, one small niche resistance as well there if you zoomed in, and then support as at this point right here. So I don't think we would be going lower, just again because the news is nothing crazy. in terms of coming up next week, and Apple is a positive in terms of earnings plus the buyback, share buyback. So I don't think these levels will be tested anytime soon. Hypothetically, I don't know how to explain soon, but it's just I don't think in the near future, within the week, I would say, is going to happen. But anything can happen, especially for Nasdaq. It is quite volatile. It moves way faster than the SPY S&P 500. But now going back to S&P 500 SPY, again, we're at $505.03. If we were to head down, let me cover the downside first and then go back up to the upside. The 505 is already a support level, but then the $503 is quite a bit of good a support / resistance level. Then ultimately head down to the 500, so 501. More specifically the 499, because constantly every single time we get to the 500 we drop down to 499 on high some change, and then going down to the 495, 494. There's not 497, 498 too. You could consolidate around there, but then ultimately I think it was 493 exactly. Yeah, so 493 and some change. There is support. A couple times was a resistance within zoomed in, but a lot of support. So 493, I think consolidate and go up to the upside. Again, I don't think necessarily would drop lower than that. Just because of the news and earnings and all stuff carried by the tech sector. But then to the upside, we're still looking to break the 510 and some change. We saw pretty much consolidate a bunch of times around the $508, $509 price point, maybe 507, I guess. But then we had this downward trend resistance line, like I stated, for QQQ / Nasdaq. We had the downward trend resistance line, bunch of times got knocked down. You can see right about here, clean just points exactly. But no false breakout for the SPY. And then if we were to head to that resistance level, we're looking at right now, if we were just spike up to it, about $511 and some change. And then I think we'd still go past it personally, but that's just my opinion. But either way, by time, because SPY takes time to move, I don't think we'll pass 511 by Friday. Like it'll be 511 some change, best case scenario. I don't think we'll pass it. By Monday, I'll assess it based off how we move on Friday, and I'll post the video by then. But I think that should be fine for now. And then in terms of the Dow Jones, just to show the movement, because it shows a good in terms of large caps basically. So the 5-year chart is showing the same as all of them technically in terms of long-term downward trend resistance or downward movement. Within these channels we saw resistance plus support. Technically it was about to bounce off support, but really didn't do it fully. And then the 1-year chart shows the same as the rest of them, curving up to the upside. Now this one has crossed over to the upside, so showing movement to the upside. And then 6 months, 3 months, and all that stuff showing upside movement as well. So technically everything's pointing upside, especially given Apple earnings. In my opinion, I think that is a good sign. Not good sign, but good catalyst. I would say good catalyst, in my opinion. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you guys like it. If you do, consider dropping a like. It does help the channel, so thank you so much for that. I do appreciate it. And if you do want to be notified when I do upload my next video, consider following so you'll be notified when I do post it. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next video. Peace.